Travis Kelce proposing to Taylor Swift is a prime example of how Black women are constantly overlooked when it comes to commitment, longevity, proposals, weddings, and these men choosing us. Prior to Taylor Swift, Kelce dated Kayla, who was a Black woman, for over 6 years. And that wasn't enough time for him to realize he wanted to be with her, to build a legacy, to propose, to commit. But 2 years was enough. Now, somebody might argue me and say, well, maybe Taylor Swift was more his type. Maybe that may be true. But how is a girl not your type if you're with her for 6 years? If you ever been to a college graduation and you see the graduates, have you ever seen the young white women and how they have their rings already? 23, 24-year-old women already proposed to because there's a plan. They have a plan in life that they know that they have to get married, start family, start legacy, and build up from there. When it comes to Black women, they just want to make us baby mamas and leave us, and they just want to never commit fully and not treat us the same as far as being chosen like other races. And the fact that women are really not in control of proposing, we're waiting for these men to give us what we deserve, but it just never comes. Therefore, we then have to leave. Therefore, that we create a broken family, a broken household, and it continues and continues until Black men start choosing us like other races choose their people, their women. Until Black men start choosing us, the narrative is never going to stop. The broken family dynamic is never going to stop, or Black women have to be chosen by other men, and that's not always a given either.
I wanted to respond to this real quick because this video to me was absolutely fascinating. I mean, first of all, how are Black men to blame? How are Black men even in this conversation? What do Black men have to do with a white man choosing to love and marry a white woman? Like, they're nowhere in the conversation, but what's so crazy to me about this entire dialogue and this entire context is it's about a white couple. It's about a white couple. Travis Kelce in the scenario would be the one who is, in theory, being up for question, right? Based upon his history of being with multiple Black women. And then all of a sudden, when it comes down to settling down, he chooses a white blonde, someone who appears to be against his preference. He should be the one who was under the scrutiny, right? But somehow, when it's all said and done, it's still Jermaine's fault. That is what I found so incredibly crazy about this video. I had to respond to because I'm like, what do Black men are not, they're nowhere in this conversation. Yet and still, you got a white man who's choosing a white woman, and it's still Jermaine's fault. It's still Black men's fault that this white man decided to leave the Black queens and get him a Becky with the good hair. And honestly, I'm happy for them. I mean, I hope it works out. They seem like they're a good match. Like, they seem hella cute together, and I really hope things go well. But the circular logic to me here is just absolutely insane. Now, another thing I noticed about this short TikTok video was this limiting belief that I oftentimes hear among Black women, and that is that they cannot find love or marriage or commitment simply because they're Black. And that is simply not true. I mean, before the 1950s, Black American women were married at a higher rate than white women. And no one can sit here and tell me that racism wasn't going on. Obviously, there was a ton of racism Black women were experiencing in 1950. So clearly, it's not because they're Black or because of racism or different things. No, that's not what's going on. There are other cultural and societal factors. And I think the real issue is many Black women are upset that they are not getting proposed to and married to the men that they want, aka white men, aka white influential or non-Black influential men. That is really where the gripe is coming from. Because I mentioned before, Black women were married at a higher rate than white women in the 1950s, but they were married to Black men. Now, post anti-miscegenation laws, London versus Virginia, all of that, it's not a problem. But the marriage rate is still not budged. And I think what's really going on is Black women are just upset that they're not getting the top tier white or non-Black man. But instead of saying that exclusively, they don't want to attack the white men. They don't want to openly attack the men that they are attracted to. So it's easier to punch down on Black men, which is what I think we see happening in this video. This video is all about a white man choosing a white woman after having a long history of being with Black women, but somehow it is Black men's fault. And to me, that speaks to the deep desire that many Black women have to be a white man's counterpart that they're just not comfortable owning. This is why I think some Black women find it easier to attack Black men versus white men, even when white men are the ones to blame, or the ones who committed the offense according to the eyes of the Black woman. They're not really going to call out the men that they ultimately desire, or in some cases, idolize. Of course, I'm not saying this is every Black woman, but I do think it's something that some ladies struggle with. She also mentioned something really interesting, which is that women can't propose. And that's absolutely not true. We exist in a free country. We exist in a feminist country where men and women have pretty much been given parity, equal access to job opportunities, to financial wealth, to get for their college education. A woman can open a bank account, she can own her own home, she can start her own business without interference from men. And so that we don't exist in a society where women are under guardianship. They can do whatever they want. So it's not that women can't propose, it's just that they simply don't want to. And this is a bit inconsistent in a culture that claims that it wants equality and parity between men and women, as we see that equality and parity only exist in certain scenarios, but it certainly doesn't exist when it comes to the dating and romantic dynamic. Women still want to be treated like they are damsels, like they are princesses, and they still want chivalry. And then to her last point about Black women not getting married compared to white women who do, this again is largely a cultural issue. Black America does not cultivate families, it does not cultivate marriage. That is just not a predominant aspect of our culture. And I understand there are many reasons for this. There has been many attacks against the Black family historically and systematically. But with that said, a lot of Black women don't get married because they simply don't want to. It's not like we grew up in a culture where Black women are told since they were young girls up until 18 that they should go to college looking for husbands. They're not told ring by spring as some of these white women are. So again, it's a cultural issue. We also have to take into consideration class. Higher class people tend to be married more, and it just so happens that there are more white people, and higher class white people have overwhelmingly more wealth than Black people and the Black women, and that again is connected to marriage. So there's a class discussion in this, but really what I want to challenge is this idea that Black women aren't getting married and they're not getting long-term relationships because they are Black. That is not true. We have got to throw that out of the window. We have to look at the cultural values. If you are not cultivated and trained to be a wife, then why would you expect to be one? Two, if you are a Black woman and you are wanting the top tier 1% white men, we have to understand the culture that we live in. And men, by and large, today are still very much race loyal. Even white men who have a Black girl fetish or a Black girl phase, it is not surprising that they may still end up with a white woman that can give him little white babies. And lastly, I think it's okay to just acknowledge that you want a white man. Instead of blaming Black men or coming up with all these reasons that Black men aren't leveling up, if you just say that you're if you just say that you want a white man and that you are struggling because you can't have that, I think that's a more honest conversation than blaming Jermaine for a white man choosing a white woman. Like, in my opinion, that would be a more productive conversation. But anyways, y'all, that's what I have. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.